Today I want to talk directly to you, the woman who has been circling something. You know what I mean. It's that version of yourself you keep glimpsing in the corner of your eye. The one who walks differently, speaks up, and without apologizing for it, she takes up space that she actually needs. You've seen her, you think about her, and then life happens and you put her back on the shelf and you tell yourself someday. I want to challenge that today. Not gently, because I think you've been gentle with yourself about this for long enough. Here's what I want you to start with, because I think we underestimate how much this actually matters. Your energy is communicating something before you even open your mouth. The way you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room, the way you hold eye contact or you don't. All of it is broadcasting information. To the people around you, yes. But more importantly, to yourself. Your body is always listening to what you're telling it. And if you've spent years telling it to take up less space, to soften the edges, to wait, it has learned that lesson very well. The women who seem to command a room aren't doing something most people can't do. They have simply decided at some level that they belong there. That's it. That's the whole secret. Not a technique, not a personality type, a decision. And that decision is available to you. Here's what I see over and over again, both in my work and in my own life. Women who are extraordinarily capable, deeply wise, and genuinely so powerful, waiting for the right moment, waiting until the kids are older, the job is more stable, that they've lost the weight, they've healed the wound, they've gotten further in therapy, waiting for some external signal that it's finally okay to show up fully. And I want to say this clearly. That signal is not coming, not from out there. The permission you're looking for, you are the only one who can give it. Let's talk about what's actually happening in your nervous system when you play small, because I think understanding the why behind this pattern is what actually frees you from it. Your brain is a prediction machine. Its number one job is to keep you alive, and it does that by making everything familiar feel safe and everything unfamiliar feel threatening. So when you start to step into a bigger version of yourself, when you start to speak up, set a boundary, pursue something that actually lights you up, your nervous system can register that as danger. Not because it is dangerous, but because it's new. And new feels like a risk. That's not a character flaw, that's simply biology. But here's what I need you to hear. You are not obligated to obey every alarm system that your nervous system trips. You can feel the discomfort of growth and you can choose to move anyway. That's not recklessness, that's courage. And courage practiced over time becomes confidence. You don't wait to feel confident and then act. You act and then the confidence follows every time. I want to introduce you to a concept I come back and forth with constantly in my own life and with the women that I work with. I call it living from the future forward. Now, most of us are living from the past outward. We're letting these old experiences, old wounds, old feedback from people who are operating from their own limitations. We're letting all of that write our story of who we are right now. And then we're projecting that story forward and calling it our future. But what if you flipped it? What if you started with the woman you are becoming and let her inform how you move today? This is not fantasy. This is how the brain actually works. Your nervous system doesn't clearly distinguish between a memory and a vivid mental rehearsal. When you consistently imagine yourself walking with confidence, making the decision, having the conversation, your brain begins to encode that as a real experience. You are literally building new neural architecture every time you do this. So close your eyes. Not right now, obviously you're driving or doing dishes or whatever you're doing, but tonight, close your eyes and find her. The version of you who has stopped waiting. What does she feel like in her body? How does she walk into a room? What does she say yes to, and what does she not even entertain anymore? Spend time with her. She's not a fantasy, she is a blueprint. Now I want to talk about the woman that you've been, because this part matters and we don't talk about it enough. There's a version of you, maybe a few versions, who did what she had to do to survive. She learned to be agreeable, to anticipate the needs of others, to make herself smaller so that the room felt safer. She built armor that worked, and I want to be really clear about something. She was not weak. She was resourceful. She was doing the best she could with what she had. But she got you here, and she cannot get you there. And the problem is that most of us are still walking around in her skin without even realizing it. Still responding from her fears, still filtering our choices through her lens, still waiting for her version of safety before we allow ourselves to want more. Releasing her is not a betrayal. It is the most loving thing that you can do for her and for yourself. You can thank her for the protection. You honor what she carried, and then you walk through the door she was guarding. It's not abandonment. This is growth. This is what it actually looks like to heal. Now, I want to talk about something that nobody in this conversation wants to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway. Some of what is keeping you from her is comfort. Not trauma, not circumstance, comfort. The life you have right now, even if it's not the life you want, is familiar, and familiarity is seductive. It asks very little of you. It doesn't require you to risk, to fail publicly, or to find out what you're actually made of. And I say this is not to shame anyone, because I say this because I truly have lived it. I know what it is to choose the smaller, safer version of life, because the bigger one felt like it was too much to hope for. But here's the thing about playing small. It doesn't actually feel safe in your body. It feels like slow compression, a gradual dimming. You might not even notice it happening until one day you look up and realize that you have been holding your breath for years. That compression is not protection. That is the cost of not being who you are. Now let's talk about the queen. I love this metaphor because a queen is not someone who has everything figured out. She is not someone who never doubts, never grieves, never has a hard week. What sets her apart is that she does not lead from those places. She feels all of it. And then she gets up and she acts from her own deepest knowing anyway. A queen is not waiting for proof of her worth. She has decided. And that decision, made internally before the external world catches up, that is where real power lives. And here's what I want you to understand about that kind of power. It doesn't come from force. It doesn't come from having to fight for your place in the room. It comes from being so rooted in who you are that the question of whether you belong simply stops being interesting to you. That is not arrogance. That is self-possession. And it is available to every woman in this conversation. You don't earn your way into that decision. You don't graduate into it. You make it. And then you make it again the next day. And then the day after that, until it becomes the ground you stand on rather than the thing you have to keep reaching for. I also want to say something about how you're getting there, because I think we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves around the timeline. Growth that is real, the kind that actually changes how you move through the world, is often invisible before it's obvious. It is happening in the conversations you're finally having with yourself. In the moment, you catch an old thought pattern and choose not to follow it. In the boundary you hold, even when it's uncomfortable. In the small, daily decisions to honor yourself rather than betray yourself. None of that looks dramatic from the outside. None of it shows up in a highlight reel. But it is doing something very profound beneath the surface. The way roots deepen long before any flowers. Trust that. Don't abandon that process because you can't see the evidence yet. The evidence is coming. Your job is to stay in it. One more thing before I close, and this might be the most important piece of information. The woman you're becoming, she is not going to be driven by fear. Not fear of judgment, not fear of failure, not fear of being too much or not enough. She has made a different choice. She has decided to lead from love instead. What does this mean practically? It means she makes decisions from abundance rather than scarcity. She doesn't shrink herself to manage other people's comfort. She doesn't over-explain or over-apologize or over-give to earn her place. She moves through the world with an open hand instead of a clenched fist. And she does not compete. She uplifts because she understands that there is no scarcity of power here. That when one woman rises fully into herself, she gives every woman around her the permission to do the same. That kind of queen I'm talking about, not domination, not performance. She is present, rooted, a deep, quiet knowing that she is enough, and she always was. So here's my challenge to you before we close this. Pick one thing, one area of your life where you have been waiting for permission that was always yours to give, and decide, not tomorrow, not after you've thought about it for another 3 months, decide today that you are done waiting on yourself. Because everything you're waiting to become, you already are in seed form. That clarity, the confidence, the courage, it's not something you need to go acquire It is in you right now, asking to be chosen. The woman on the other side of your waiting is not a different person. She is you, without the stories that told you to hold back. She is you, done apologizing for needing what you need. She is you, fully arrived in your own life. You are a queen. Not because life has been easy, not because you have it all together, but because you are still here, still growing, still reaching for the version of yourself you know you are capable of being. That is not small, that is everything. Now go out there and be the queen that you really are.